So, Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone, again. Today, we are going to discuss two topics. The first one is going to be on scientific misconduct and plagiarism in scientific writing, and the second is going to be literature search. Before I start the session, there's a little bit of disclaimer I would like to disclose that usually I do both of these sessions as separate workshops of 2 to 3 hours each. But today I'm going to summarize them, both of them, in 30-minute session each. So definitely it's going to be a challenge, and I won't be able to go in little bit details of both of these topics. So what we can do that I'm only going to discuss important aspects and important problems that we face in our daily life while working in Pakistan research and writing. And then probably next month I can plan a detailed workshop both on scientific misconduct and literature search, and probably you can join that. So coming to the first part, that is the scientific misconduct and plagiarism in medical writing. Again, let's start with the story. A story is of Dr. Talha. Dr. Talha is desperate to have some publication to get promoted to the rank of professor. He is a busy man and does not have much time to conduct research himself. He just wants some articles by any means possible. The option he has in mind are: number one, to ask his trainees to write articles for him; to pay someone to write articles for him; and number three, request his colleagues and juniors to put his name in their articles. So what do you think is the right approach? Please write 1, 2, 3 or something else in the chat box. Which you think is the most appropriate option for Dr. Talha? Okay. So Dr. Kiran, Dr. Adnan, Dr. Yusuf say none of these options are valid. Hafsa say to pay someone to write articles. Ruqayya says none. Hanif says to request his colleagues. Okay, none of, so most of you think that none of these options is a valid option. Okay, but some of you think that it's okay that he starts requesting his colleagues and juniors to put his name in their articles. And at least one of your colleagues has actually said that he should pay someone to write articles for him. We'll discuss whether which option is the right one and is there any alternative available or not. So let's move forward. ये किसी का जो है ना, ये अपना माइक अनम्यूट हुआ है, प्लीज अपने माइक्स म्यूट कर दीजिएगा प्लीज, बैकग्राउंड नॉइस बहुत हो रही है. थैंक यू. Someone's mic is unmuted. Please mute your mics. Okay, yeah, बस मैं कर दिया. Thank you. So despite the fact that most of us in healthcare professionals, whether we are students, residents, attending physician, consultants, faculty members or professors, we are supposed to write articles, but unfortunately none of us or most of us are not formally trained to avoid scientific misconduct and follow the good principles of ethical research in our daily life. And the problem is, kindly please ये लगता है I have to mute, sorry, I have to request you again, please अपने mics अगर आप mute कर दें ताकि background noise ना आए and we can keep on going. So what I was mentioning, that most of us are not formally trained in research ethics and scientific misconduct. And the problem is that once people are caught, these are the different kind of reactions that you see. The youngest most would say कि ये गलत चीज थी. There are people who would say कि मेरे साथ धोखा हुआ है. And there are actually people, and these are the people from the senior echelon, जो ये कहते हैं मुझे से क्या, सब ये करते हैं. मेरा साथ वाला क्या नाम है, पैसे दे के उसने आर्टिकल लिखवाए, आज वो प्रोफेसर है. मेरा दोस्त है, मैं उसको जानता हूँ, जब भी उसे डिजर्टेशन थीसिस चाहिए होता है वो 25-30 हज़ार रुपये देता है और क्या मैं जाली डिजर्टेशन लेके उसने अपना FCPS पार्ट 2 या PhD HEC प्रोग्राम कर लिया है. सो मुझे क्या, सब ये करते हैं. The point is कि in real life your life should be based on principles and not perspectives. It doesn't matter if all of the people around you are doing something in the wrong way. You have to formulate some principles and then you have to stick to them. And the major 3 types of misconduct that you would encounter in your clinical research endeavors are of 3 types. And you can remember the mnemonic FFP. So any idea what FFP stands for? I mean, जो clinicians है, I know they would say fresh frozen plasma, that's fine. So fresh frozen plasma की क्या नाम है correlation है with type of misconduct? So what does FFP stand for in context of scientific misconduct? Okay, Dr. Fawad says fraud, Dr. Khala says falsification, Kiran says false. Fantastic. Hafsa ne kya main sari game hi khatam kar di. Fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, and both Hafsa Shahid and Hafsa Paracha. Thank you very much. Please remember that during this session, we are only going to use the standardized or globally accepted terminologies. So fraud is also an accepted terminology, but the globally accepted terminology for FFP in context of scientific misconduct is falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. Now, what is fabrication? As the word indicates, fabrication is the, oh God, excuse me, please mute yourself kindly. I will be grateful. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay. So fabrication is basically the lowest form of scientific misconduct. And as the name indicates, fabrications mean ghad lena, to make out something out of nothing. I mean, आप रात को सोए, सुबह उठे, आपके क्या में कंप्यूटर में डेटा तैयार था, ना कोई मरीज देखा, ना कोई रिसर्च की, ना कोई डेटा कलेक्ट किया, बट डेटा तैयार था. You went out and you paid for some, you paid some amount of money, and someone actually created a false data sheet, an SPSS sheet for you. That is fabrication, which is defined as making up of data or results and recording or reporting them. Falsification is what you call jhoot ki amezish, that you do something good, but then you create some kind of false things that actually pollute the whole scenario of your research. And as the word falsification means, आप कह सकते हो झूठ की आमेजिश करना. And it can be of many types. For example, manipulation of the results, of the research materials, of the images, of the data, equipment or processes. For example, इसकी सबसे simple example तो वो है कि you have collected data on 200 patients, but you were unable to collect data on, let's say, 2 parameters in 20 patients. And instead of reporting it as missing data, you simply falsify and you create different values from your own self. It's falsification. It's unethical. It's not allowed. Second could be, for example, research materials that, for example, in basic medical sciences or in interventional trials where you use, let's say, some chemicals or drugs. So your trial was comparison of 75 milligram of diclofenac sodium versus 500 milligram of naproxen sodium in the management of knee pain. This was your study title, and this is what you were supposed to do in your study. But you manipulated it to some end, and you actually used 100 milligram of diclofenac sodium and 250 milligram of naproxen sodium because you wanted to prove the superiority of diclofenac sodium over naproxen sodium for whatever reason you have in your mind. That is also falsification. Another important thing that you need to understand is that it also includes changing or omitting data or result in such a manner that the research is not accurately represented. और ये बहुत issue होता है in our setup where people are very afraid to report negative results. So what is a negative result? A negative result can be that you started with a hypothesis, drug A is better than drug B, and you conducted your trial in a very good, efficient manner, ethically as per the standard operating procedures. But the result were that drug B is actually better than drug A. So your hypothesis has been proven wrong. Now, most of the people think, and even our seniors actually guide us, and it's a wrong guidance, that कोई नहीं यार, तुमने जो शुरू में बात की थी ना, बस उसको ही follow करो. Or please manipulate your results so that A becomes better than B. Please remember, this is also a form of scientific misconduct and falls under the category of falsification. Whatever your results are, whether they are positive results or whether they are negative results, you have to accurately portray them as such in your dissertation, thesis, or your research article. And please remember, because we are short of time, I'm not going to go in detail, but right now there are certain journals in the world, International Biomedical Journal, of course, who publish only negative results. दुनिया सिर्फ हाँ कहने से और पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट से आगे नहीं बढ़ती. Sometimes negative results also give you good information. So please do not falsify your results, whatever reason you have. It is unethical. It's not allowed. And if it gets caught, I just told you, the article might get retracted and your name might get blacklisted, so that you are not able to publish in that journal for a couple of years, or maybe you are banned for life. Last but not least is the P, and P stands for plagiarism. So most of us think that plagiarism is only copy paste. Copy paste is only one form of the plagiarism. We are going to discuss how many other forms are available, which people sometimes do willingly and sometimes unknowingly. We are going to discuss that in detail. So one of the definition of plagiarism is that is deliberately using another person's work without permission, acknowledgement, or without giving appropriate credit. This is called plagiarism. Can anyone explain me what is this picture? What is this picture? Any idea? ये picture क्या है? इस picture में क्या नजर आ रहा है? Challenges, okay. Anything else? Enemies, anything else? Anger, okay. Everyone biting, ठीक है, dragon. Thank you, Mariam Habib. Thank you very much. Hydra. This is Hydra. So what is Hydra? Any idea what is Hydra? Excellent. Thank you very much, Mariam. So Hydra is basically a Greek mythical figure. It is a character in which Hydra or the monster, she had multiple heads. And if you cut one head, another head would actually grow out of that place where the head was cut. कहने का मकसद ये है कि most of us they think and they believe that plagiarism means only copy paste. कहीं से उठाया कहीं से paste कर दिया ये plagiarism है. बाकी तमाम चीजें allowed हैं. Hydra means that plagiarism has got many facets. Experts say that there are more than 10 different types of plagiarism. I'm only going to talk of the 4 most important types, right? So the most common is the one we know as stealing or verbatim. And it means copying a sentence or even a unique phrase and passing it off as your own, verbatim. जिसे आप आपस में आप क्या कहते हो? Copy paste, ठीक है? मतलब Control C और फिर Control V इस तरह, ठीक है ना? This is the most, I mean, it was one of the most common forms. आजकल लोग आमतौर पे ये नहीं करते, but जो youngsters होते हैं जिनको idea नहीं होता, वो ये कर लेते हैं. Please remember the plagiarism detection softwares nowadays are really strong, and they would actually pick up your plagiarism and your stealing or verbatim or copy paste pretty easily. So don't do these things. And almost all biomedical journals of Pakistan, both indexed and non-indexed, they have installed Turnitin software, which is a plagiarism detection software. And all of the articles that you send to our local journals or even international journals, they are scanned by plagiarism detection software. And if your similarity index is more than 15% or 20%, they are going to either reject your article or they're going to send it back. So please be very careful and don't go into cut and paste, copy paste. But life is beyond that. There's something known as patchworking. Any idea what is patchworking? Patchworking क्या होती है? Patchworking. Patchworking. किसी ने कभी खैरपुर की रलियां देखी हैं? खैरपुर is a place in Sindh. One para, thank you, Khola. One para from one article, second from another. Bits and pieces of different combined together. Include some of your own thoughts, adding material from different places. Thank you very much. So basically, patchworking is actually using words and phrases from a source which may or may not be acknowledged and patching them together into new sentences. इसकी दो examples हैं. One example is that you read 5, 10, 20 articles and you read like you chose 5 or 10 or 20, 30 sentences from different articles. You simply copy pasted those articles and you gave a reference. This is known as aggregation, and the person who does this is known as aggregator, jama karne wala. This is also not acceptable in the scientific writing, because people say if you're only going to aggregate things, so where are your own ideas and where are your own writing? So that is not acceptable. But the worst form of true patchworking is where you copy paste articles or different sentences or sometimes even whole paragraphs from different articles and you patch them together as if it is your own creation and you don't even quote them or cite them. That's absolutely patchworking, and it is a form of plagiarism which is not acceptable and which gets detected by plagiarism detection softwares. आजकल के दौर में आप इसको रीमिक्स वर्जन भी कह सकते हैं कि वहां से आर्टिकल उठाया, वहां से उठाया, मजे से एक रीमिक्स बनाया, जैसे एक नया गाना बनता है और उसको लॉन्च कर दिया. बट इट इज नॉट ऑथराइज्ड, नॉट अलाउड. Insufficient paraphrasing. Before we discuss insufficient paraphrasing, can someone tell me what is paraphrasing? And should we do paraphrasing? What is paraphrasing, and should we do paraphrasing or not? Should we do paraphrasing? Okay, इसका जवाब दे दें. Should we do paraphrasing? Excellent. Dr. Aisha says describing in own words. BDA second year, change some words in a sentence keeping same meaning. Explain those sentences in our own word, Hafsa. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. So please remember, paraphrasing is the right way of writing. Paraphrasing means to read something, to read an article, to read a passage, to read a paragraph, and to summarize and explain that and rewrite in your own words. That is absolutely fine, and that is the right way of writing a scientific article. That is called paraphrasing. इसमें कोई बुराई नहीं है. Insufficient paraphrasing is where you take an author's word and change them slightly without quoting the actual text. So you're doing two wrong things. Number one, again, you're not quoting and citing. And number two, you're only changing the meaning of the word, what we call synonyms. अल्फाज का हेर फेर. Example, strong की जगह powerful, tall की जगह long, best की जगह very good. So you have not actually changed the structure. You are not explaining it your own words. You have taken the whole sentence of the author. You have simply changed a couple of words, the synonyms, and you have not quoted and cited it. It is insufficient paraphrasing, and it is not allowed. It is a form of plagiarism. Please try to avoid that. Moving forward, misquoting. कायदे आजम ने फरमाया और लिखा वो जो मेरे दिल में आया. क्योंकि कायदे आजम ने कहा से आके आपको ठीक करना है कि बेटा ये है कि नहीं है. And misquoting is whenever you are quoting another author, always be sure to quote exactly what was said. And I have deliberately put this slide here because misquoting is our national culture. This tweet might actually hammer the point which I'm going to describe. Misquoting. Do you agree or disagree? कि घटिया किस्म की क्या नाम है उर्दू शायरी जिसका ना सर ना पैर होता है वो इकबाल के नाम पे होती है. बिल्कुल क्या नाम है इनकरेक्ट इंग्लिश जो होती है वो शेक्सपियर के नाम पे होती है. So misquoting is also something that people do. You might say people don't misquote. People do misquote to prove their points. This is a question to all of you who read articles and who write articles. Whenever you read an article, how many times you have done this? That you read an article, you read a certain sentence or a statement, you see the reference, you trace the reference or down in the reference list, then you see the title of the article, you trace the title of the article in the full text, and you read the full text to verify that claim or that figure. How many times you have done that? I mean, do you read articles like these? The problem is that science is based on the principle that everyone is honest and everyone is here to help out each other. But लोग इसका गलत फायदा उठाते हैं and they try to misquote. So please do not misquote figures, do not misquote statistics, and do not misquote statements which are not written in the article. और इसके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि you have to read the full text of the article instead of only reading the abstract and taking out the main points and quoting or citing them. Because an abstract does not contain enough information which you can decipher and say for sure what the author wanted to say. So again, you have to avoid misquoting as well. The next thing that you need to understand and avoid is unethical authorship. For example, look at this cartoon. It says, no, it's my wife's turn to be the first author on your paper. You might laugh कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं होता, बिल्कुल ऐसा होता है. I know people who, senior people who pressurize and blackmail their juniors to write article for their spouses and for their children who are also studying in the medical college. It actually happens. It happens all around the globe, but specifically in developing countries. This is a reality which we cannot ignore. So again, these are the unethical authorship that you need to avoid. Whenever I do this workshop live, many people they complain and they have a critique or feedback कि सर पाकिस्तान में सब कुछ होता है और how are you saying that it is unethical? The point is, this is not me saying it is unethical. I have given you references in the slide in the end. You can go and verify this. These are the globally accepted norms that authorship should be based on this criteria, and this authorship will be classified as unethical authorship. The first one is coercive authorship. Any idea what is coercive authorship? Coercion क्या होती है? What is coercion? And Dr. Aisha says, someone asked me to do this just 2 weeks ago. I know, I am a product of the same system. मैं आपके साथ रहता हूँ, यही काम करता हूँ. I know the problems that we face, and that's why in my training session, I'm repeatedly going to highlight the problems that you and me face. because no one else is going to discuss these problems. Forcefully by power. Okay, Dr. Khola, thank you. Forcefully by power. Thank you very much. So coercion means whenever there is a power differential, one person has an authority and the other person works under him or her. And you know better than me, in this particular scenario, this means your supervisor and the resident, the teacher and the student, the head of department and the person working under him or her. So coercive authorship is authorship given to an individual in response to exertion of seniority or supervisory status over subordinates and junior investigators. We all know कि ये होता है. Just because कि ये होता है does not mean it is the right thing to do. And please, whenever you become seniors, head of departments and professors and supervisors, please break this chain of exploitation and don't do this with your youngsters. So first is coercion authorship. Number two, mutual support authorship. Very strange. Yesterday I was talking of teamwork, and here I'm discussing that mutual support authorship is actually not a good thing to do, and it is considered an unethical authorship. Any idea what is a mutual support authorship? Probably we are running short of time. I need to be a bit quick actually. So, okay, किसी ने कुछ लिखा है. I put your name in our work and vice versa. Thank you, Hafza. Thank you. Aisha, thank you. One time I read your name in your article. Next time you do that for me. BDS2, fantastic. You scratch my back and I scratch yours. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Two or more researchers place their names on each other papers to enhance their perceived productivity. कि 3-4 का ग्रुप है भाई, ऐसा करते हैं कि एक आर्टिकल हम लिखेंगे उसमें नंबर होगा 1 2 3, दूसरे में 2 3 1, तीसरे में 3 1 2 कर लेते हैं. ठीक है. इसको आप पाकिस्तानी ज़बान में क्या कह सकते हो? वटा सट्टा. You take my article, I'll take yours. ठीक है. The problem with mutual support authorship are a couple of problems. I will discuss it in detail. The most important is that you are not sure that whether the research done by your other colleague was ethical or not. And if that article gets banned or blacklisted or retracted, your name will also get blacked, retracted and blacklisted. और वो कहते हैं कि मुफ्ते में गए थे क्या नाम है अपना वो नमाजें बख्शवाने और रोजे गले पड़ गए, यानी कि आपने उससे एक फेवर मांगा और उसका आपको उल्टा नुकसान हो गया. सो प्लीज बिलीव इन योरसेल्फ, डू योर रिसर्च in the manner I am telling you, starting from pre-planning, and publish your own articles. इस तरह collaborate करना is not part of a good collaboration. It is part of the mutual support authorship, which is globally considered an unethical practice. So try to avoid that. Guest author. I'll be a bit quick क्योंकि time हमारे पास थोड़ा कम रह जाएगा, I know. Guest author are those who make no significant contribution but are listed to help increase the chances of publication. Guest और gift authorship आपस में मिलती है, और you can say okay, इसकी एग्जांपल मैं अगर देना चाहूँ अगेन प्रैक्टिकली, तो आई वुड से कि इसका ताल्लुक होता है किसी हद तक विद ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट एहसास कमतरी से. If you don't believe in your own research, if you don't believe in the hard work that you have done, so many a time you think that if I put the name of a senior ranking person in my article, he or she might get the article accepted. Unfortunately, in some cases वाकई ये होता है कि आप क्या नाम है, अगर अपने किसी मेडिकल कॉलेज में काम कर रहे हैं और उस मेडिकल कॉलेज के जो एडिटोरियल बोर्ड है उसमें आपके अपने प्रोफेसर क्या नाम है, दे आर पार्ट ऑफ दैट एडिटोरियल बोर्ड. सो इफ यू रिक्वेस्ट देम समटाइम दे कैन गेट थिंग्स डन. But let me tell you, we are talking of high-ranking good journals, high-ranking international journals. They don't care about your academic ranking. If you submit your article to an online journal, especially international journal, all they are going to ask you is, number one, your name, first name, the last name, your affiliation, your degree, and your department. They are not concerned whether you're an undergraduate medical student, a resident, or a senior faculty member. If the quality of the research is good, it is going to be published, right? गेस्ट ऑथरशिप की एक और एग्जांपल अगर आपको दूं, ये रैंडम एग्जांपल है, प्लीज इसको मतलब सीरियस मत लेके, मतलब मैंने ऐसे नाम क्यों ले रहा हूं. लेट्स इमेजिन somebody is writing an article on a topic related to cardiology, a new drug in cardiology, and he writes an article. It's a good article, good research, and he approaches the director of Punjab Institute of Cardiology in Lahore, or probably the director of NICVD in Karachi. Now you know that they are really good people, I mean great people, और उनका बहुत नाम है. और प्रोबेबली अगर किसी का मतलब कि किसी ने कार्डियोलॉजी में अगर आर्टिकल पब्लिश करना है और पाकिस्तान में एटलीस्ट, और उनका नाम अगर लगा देगा, सो देयर इज अ चांस कि वो आर्टिकल पब्लिश हो जाएगा, एंड पीपल डू दैट. बट दिस इज नोन एज गेस्ट ऑथरशिप, एंड यू शुड अवॉइड दैट बिकॉज इट इज अनएथिकल. गिफ्ट ऑथरशिप होती है ऑथर्स हुज कंट्रीब्यूशन इज बेस्ड सोनली ऑन अ वीक एफिलिएशन विद द स्टडी. इट इज ऑफ टू टाइप्स. एक तो जो लोग अपने दोस्तों को नवाजते हैं, ठीक है ना, और अपने मतलब कि सीनियर्स को नवाजते हैं, वो भी गिफ्ट ऑथरशिप है. और दूसरी कुछ इस तरह की कंट्रीब्यूशन होती है कि व्हाट इज योर कंट्रीब्यूशन इन योर रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट. आई गिव 10 रुपीज फॉर द प्रिंट आउट. सो लोग लिटरली आपको 200 का डेटा होता है, उसमें से 10-15 का डेटा लेके देते हैं और साथ ही कहते हैं कि प्लीज मेरा नाम डाल दीजिए. लोग आपको 3 दिन के लिए लैपटॉप उधार देते हैं और क्या मैं साथ ही कहते हैं कि भाई भाई का नाम भी होना चाहिए नंबर 3 पे. लोग आपको SPSS डाउनलोड करके देते हैं फ्री वर्जन एंड देन दे क्लेम ऑथरशिप. Again, I know people do that and people give away authorships, but this is unethical as per the global standards. If you are trying to aim for an international article, it's better if you avoid all these things. The second most important thing that you need to understand in context of Pakistan is that if you involve yourself in guest authorship and gift authorship from the start, believe you me, आप जिंदगी भर कभी भी first author नहीं बन सकोगे. If you oblige one or two seniors, how can you say no to the other seniors working in the same department? And let me tell you, I know many people जो जिंदगी भर काम करते रहते हैं और कभी भी वो फर्स्ट या सेकंड ऑथर नहीं बन सकते बिकॉज सब लोग आके उनसे अपना इस तरह का हक वसूल करने के चक्कर में होते हैं. So if you make your own decisions based on these principles and you stick to your own principles and then you implement them, believe you me, you can write really good articles. You will not be bothered by anyone and no one is going to bother you, hopefully in future as well. So please follow these principles and stick to your good research ethics. The last and probably the most important is ghost authors, and ghost authors is individuals not named as authors but who contribute substantially to the preparation of an article, often paid by commercial sponsors. Basically, it started off with it was a scandal that was exposed back in 2011. If you want to go in detail and read the detail, it's a fantastic exposure on how pharmaceutical industry works in the world, because you know that the pharmaceutical industry is a multi-billion, not million, multi-billion dollar industry. And whenever they launch a drug in the market, the stocks might go up or might go down. So they try their level best to make the stocks go up, because as the stocks go up, they make billions of dollars. So what they used to do, whenever a new drug was launched, a phase 3 or a phase 2 trial, they would conduct really high quality randomized control trials or multi-center, multi-country studies, excellent ethical studies. But once the study was completed, they would ask a set of experts to write the article, and then they would go to the expert in that particular field that please you become first or second or third author on that particular article. Again, imagine a new drug on cardiology is being launched in Pakistan, and the authors include the director of Punjab Institute of Cardiology and director of NICVD. Do you really think that anybody is going to challenge that study? Because such big names are on that study. So this is how the pharmaceutical industry used to work. They still work like this, but since they were exposed back in 2011 by an operation by New York Times and PLOS, so they have actually stopped doing this thing on a larger scale. My problem is with my people in this part is fake synopsis, article, thesis, and dissertation. This is all ghost authorship, and it is also a part of fabrication and falsification that people simply go and pay amount of money and they don't do anything and they get articles, dissertation, and thesis. And if you get into this habit of getting fake synopsis, thesis, article, dissertation right from the start, I would request you to pause for a moment and focus on this dua or supplication by Prophet Muhammad. This is a supplication or a dua from chapter 6 of Sunan Ibn Majah. It is Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an wa rizqan tayyiban wa amalan mutaqabbala. Oh God, I ask you for beneficial knowledge, goodly provision, and acceptable deed. Allah तुझसे नफा बख्श इल्म मांगता हूँ, पाकीज़ा रोज़ी मांगता हूँ और मकबूल इल्म का अमल का सवाल करता हूँ. Please pause for a moment and think over it. I mean, even after this training session. फ्रॉड और झूठे थीसिस और आर्टिकल की बुनियाद पे ली गई डिग्री, डू यू थिंक कि वो इल्म नफा बख्श होगा, वो रोजी पाकीज़ा होगी, और वो जो आप 2 नंबर क्या नाम है थीसिस की बुनियाद पे सुपरवाइजर और FCPS और MD और PhD कर गए हैं, वो मकबूल होगा? आई एम नॉट पासिंग अ जजमेंट, आई एम ओनली टेलिंग यू दैट वंस वी से दैट इस्लाम इज अ यूनिवर्सल रिलीजन, हर दौर में रहनुमाई करता है, सो आई टेक माई रहनुमाई फ्रॉम दीज थिंग्स, नफा बख्श इल्म, पाकीज़ा रोजी और मकबूल अमल. सो बताइए, झूठ की बुनियाद पे खा वो डिग्री हो, खा वो इल्म हो, खा वो अमल हो, खा वो पैसा हो, वो जायज़ कैसे हो सकता है? सो प्लीज़ पॉज फॉर अ मोमेंट और उस पर सोचिए ज़रूर. और अगर आपके कोलीग्स ये कर रहे हैं, उन्हें समझाइए कि जो रईसा ने कहा था कि जी इस मुल्क में डिग्री होती है, असलियों के जाली. सो यस, आवर कोलीग्स, consultants, residents, medical students are doing these things. But you know, if you read these supplications and ahadith and Quranic ayats, probably it's a matter of grave concern that you should consider. Coming to the last topic of the authorship. So can someone tell me कि जब criteria for authorship. So किसके साथ ये हुआ है? Once you finalize an article for publication, all of the people in the department, starting from the head of department, the associate professor, maybe the senior resident, your colleague, और तू अपना जिगर है, everyone starts claiming their name in the article. किसके साथ ये हुआ है? किसी के साथ कभी हुआ ये? एक आर्टिकल लिखा होता है और क्या नाम है? Mariam says happened to me very recently. So this is the reality. This is the ground reality, right? So एक चीज होती है authorship, second is contributorship, third is supervisorship, and fourth is friendship. All of you agree with this? These are very important ships. इन सब का एक मकाम है. अगर अपनी जगह पर रखेंगे तो ठीक है. जहां आप इनको गड़बड़ करेंगे, आपका रिसर्च का सफीना टाइटैनिक डूब जाएगा. What is this? Any comments? What is this, and what is the relationship of this particular picture with the topic we are discussing, authorship? Beyond capacity, Dr. Khola. Dr. Overcrowding, overburdened. So what it has to do with the authorship? Too many authors, Dr. Shazia, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So this is how sometime authorship works. Look at this one, the Chingchi in the right lower corner. I'm pretty sure the real author is probably sitting in the last, or she has already been kicked out of the Chingchi. Or look at this number 2. कि मतलब कि आखिरी टाइम आर्टिकल तैयार हो गया है, मेरा नाम डाल दीजिए, खा वो नंबर 2 पे, खा नंबर 20 पर है. And look at this picture in the right upper corner. This bus, overcrowded bus, is actually going to probably crash, and it's going to like tilt to one side. So क्या कहते हैं ना कि मतलब जान जाए सो जाए, मेरा आर्टिकल ना जाए. So the question is, if all of this is not correct, so what is the criteria for authorship? How should I decide? How should you decide? How should we decide? Should be the criteria for authorship? Should we ask our seniors to do that? Coin flip कर लें, जिसका दिल चाहे दे दें, जिसने मेरा नाम डाला उसका नाम डाल दें. How should we go about that? Authorship. Any advice? Thank you very much, Dr. Hafsa. ICMJ guidelines. So please look at this criteria for authorship from ICMJ. It is a globally accepted criteria for authorship, which is prominently displayed on instruction to author of all 82 biomedical journals of Pakistan, as well as nearly all biomedical journals all around the globe. This is the criteria on which authorship should be based. I agree, and I know that people sometimes don't follow this criteria, but this is the ideal situation that you should try to follow. This criteria has 4 different components, and every component has to be adhered to in order for the person to qualify as an author. Number 1, substantial contribution to the conception, design of the work, or acquisition, analysis, or interpretation of data for the work. So if you gave the idea, or you designed the work, or you help in the data collection, or the data analysis, or the interpretation, and it should be substantial. Substantial mean a large chunk. For example, if the data is of 300 patients, you can't simply give a data of 30 patients and then claim it's substantial. Substantial means at least, 25 to 50% of the work, right? But again, simply based on this, you cannot get an authorship. You have to do something else. The word is and, or ये भी कीजिए और साथ ये भी कीजिए. तो क्या करना है? Number 2 is drafting the work or revising it critically for important intellectual content. Those of you who have written an article know this very clearly, that writing an article from the start is as difficult as finalizing and revising the article at the end. दोनों बहुत important components हैं और दोनों बहुत मुश्किल components हैं. But important is important intellectual content. Many a times our colleagues, what do? You give them an article for review. They simply correct the English grammatical mistakes and send it back to you, requesting you कि मेरा नाम डाल दीजिए. I'm sorry, we are not talking about English grammatical mistakes. Our FSC and OA level students can do it better than us because their English is pretty good. I'm talking about important intellectual content. That is, you read the whole article and you critique it as an expert. For example, you might say the introduction section is too long. You have not put in the appropriate study design. The statistical analysis seems to be incorrect. Too many tables have been used. This figure does not fit in here. Your referencing is not up to date. Your conclusion does not match with the discussion. Your discussion has 3 points missing. Now, this is what you call an intellectual input, not simple English grammatical mistake. But it doesn't stop here. You have to fulfill the next step as well, which is final approval of the version to be published and agreement to be accountable for all aspects of the work. So please connect this back to the mutual support authorship. If you are not agreeing to be accountable for all aspects, you are not sure that this research is genuine or not, whether it is a true research or a fabricated research, please do not become part of that. Please do not go into mutual support authorship or gift or guest authorships. So you have to follow these 4 criteria in order to qualify for authorship of an article, classically or ideally. But I know people, I mean, always do like shortcuts. So you have to be clear about authorship. You have to describe the contribution of each one in detail. And that's the point where I would take you back to the pre-planning. So whenever you are making a team and whenever you are making a document, at least the document that I make and I sign with my team, I clearly mentioned that the authorship will be based on ICMJ criteria. So either you accept it and you are part of the team, and if you don't accept it, you're not part of the team. So look at these examples. Right now, many Pakistani journals and most of the international journals, they are going to ask you to clearly identify the contribution of each author in detail. For example, this is an example from PGMS, Pakistan Journal of Medical Sciences, an index journal with an impact factor. So author contribution, Mr. MB conceived the idea, did practical work, drafted the manuscript, and responsible and accountable for the accuracy and integrity. And the rest of the 3 authors, they collected the data and reviewed and edited the manuscript. Look at this author contribution. It is from an international article. So this contribution is in a bit more detail. And as you can see that, you know, different authors have contributed to a different part, but all authors, look at this, all authors have given approval of the final version to be submitted, and all authors agree to ensure any question related to the work are appropriately resolved. So this is how you should give your contribution regarding authorship whenever you are submitting an article. So summary point, and actually I got late, is that you should avoid scientific misconduct at all cost, no justification for a wrong behavior, and please remember, ignorance of law is no excuse. You can't simply say, oh मुझे पता नहीं था ये copy paste था, ये patch working थी, ये misquoting थी. If you get caught, your article is going to be retracted and you have to give explanation to the editor. And in many cases, because of the bulk of the article, they don't even ask for an explanation. They simply reject your manuscript. And in some cases, even if the article has been accepted and someone points out the problem, it can get blacklisted. So please don't do that. Decide about the authorship in the pre-planning phase, and that's going to save you a lot of embarrassment and a lot of bickering at the end. And always follow the International Committee of Medical Journal Editor guidelines while deciding for authorship. If you allow me, I won't stop here and I would continue with the session so that we can have comments, question and answers at the end. Would you like to have question answer right now or at the end? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Take care. I'll continue because time waqi aaj kam ho gaya. So the next step that we are going to discuss today is effective literature search, tips and tricks. Again, the same thing. Please remember, this is actually a 2-hour workshop that I'm going to summarize in 30 minutes. So inshallah, I hope to do a whole workshop next month. Jisme I will do a lot of hand-on training, a lot of exploration of the websites. But today I'm only going to give you a brief overview of literature search. So let's start again with the story. Dr. Sania, first-year resident, her supervisor asked her to submit the synopsis. The topic is the role of intralesional steroid in the management of mild to moderate carpal tunnel syndrome in 2 weeks' time. After doing a literature search, she has never done a thorough literature search in the past before. What should she do? Ji, can you help Dr. Sania? What should Sania do? Search on internet how to do literature search. Ask supervisor. Thank you, Mariam. Good. Google Scholar, Dr. Adnan, Google Scholar. Dr. Hafsa, search with keywords, Google Scholar. literature search on net, PubMed, EndNote, PubMed, find a mentor, okay, PubMed, use Google Scholar and PubMed. Okay, so most of you would ask Sania to go to PubMed or Medline.com. That's fine. Agree. Okay. As long as one keeps searching, the answers come. So please remember, if you search thoroughly enough, you will get the article you're looking for. Not only you're going to locate the article, you're also going to get the full text PDF or the full text HTML of that article. And we are going to discuss how. वो कहते हैं ना कि ढूंढने से खुदा मिल जाता है, तो वो आर्टिकल आपको क्यों नहीं मिल रहा जिसकी आपको तलाश है. So let's talk of that. So what is literature search? Again, there are a lot many definitions. I like this definition the most, and I'm going to describe this to you. Number one, literature search is developing an okay, let me like read through it first. Literature search is developing an ability to search in a purposeful and systematic manner through the range of literature or information relevant to one's particular field. So the most important thing which I feel that you need to understand today is that literature search is an ability. It's a skill. So the more literature search you do, the more focused you are, and the more wiser you are, literature search is going to become easier and easier for you. Again, pause for a moment and go back in time, couple of months back or a couple of years back, or maybe at the start of your career. Do you remember once you did your first literature search? Or probably people like me who started their careers in the pre-internet era, जब ये internet होता भी नहीं था, we had to go to the libraries. It was a very big hassle. So again, now you are more confident. Why? Because you have been doing literature search again and again. So the first thing you need to understand is that literature search is a skill. It's an ability, like the clinical skills and other professional skills that you have gathered over the last few years. The more literature search you do, better you will become. But you need to decide that literature search should be purposeful. So please remember, literature search is not only done for research and writing. A physician or a clinician sitting in the clinic will also do literature search because he or she wants to know the latest advances and the treatment option for their patient. A student preparing for his or her presentation will also do a literature search. A faculty member preparing for the lecture or the PBL will also do the literature search. So you have to define your purpose first, and that is going to define that which website you should explore first. So please remember that literature search is not only meant for research and writing. Every healthcare professional should know how to do literature search in order to remain updated about the recent advances, in order to identify the literature gaps, in order to make good presentations, in order to become a good teacher, and obviously to become a good researcher as well. Number two, it should be done systematically. And I'll just tell you what does systematic means. And the last is it should be relevant to one's particular field. Most of you, I mean, at least people who have registered and who are already like consultant or who have chosen their field, now they're focused in a particular field and they know what their research work and what their research demands are. So if you work systematically, focus purposefully, your literature search is going to give you the answers you are looking for. Literature search strategy. There can be many strategies. I'm going to describe the strategy that I use, and it's pretty helpful. And you know, I'm pretty sure if you follow the strategy, you're also going to get the articles you're looking for. Going back to my pre-planning presentation yesterday, again, it all comes down to your research question. If you have a smart, clearly defined research question, your literature search is going to be focused and smart and efficient. So again, what was the research question for Sania? Probably it was the role of intralesional steroids in the management of mild to moderate carpal tunnel syndrome. The first thing that Sania should do is that she should extract the concept and terms out of that research question. So what concept and terms can you think of from this research question? The role of intralesional steroid in the management of carpal tunnel syndrome. Can you think of some concept and terms? Thank you for the comments, Dr. Fawad. Intralesional steroid, yes, yeah, okay. Carpal tunnel. What is carpal tunnel syndrome, by the way, people? What is carpal tunnel syndrome? Okay, please. Okay, I'll give you. Thank you, Dr. Kiran. Entrapment. Okay, fantastic. Entrapment of median nerve, Dr. Sajjad. Thank you very much. Compression. So basically, let me tell you how do you take out concepts and terms. So the question was the role of intralesional steroids in the management of carpal tunnel syndrome. So intralesional management means it's we are using steroids, which means it's a pharmacological management. It's non-surgical management, right? It's conservative management. Uh, what is carpal tunnel syndrome? Carpal tunnel syndrome is entrapment of the median nerve. So you can call it median neuropathy, median entrapment, mononeuropathy, peripheral entrapment, upper limb entrapment, right? Then once we talk of the role of interlesional steroid, obviously we are talking of that these steroids are going to help the patient. So how do we determine that the patient is being helped? Probably we are going to use some outcome measures, like for example, pain. So you might want to add pain evaluation as a concept or term. And for that, you might want to add visual analog scale, or probably how do we diagnose carpal tunnel syndrome clinically? So probably clinical examination and by EMG NCS, electromyography and nerve conduction study. So neurophysiology. So this is how you extract the concept and terms out of that research question that you have made at the start. And then you list the keywords out of that. Again, I'm sorry, we are not going to go in detail of keywords, but one important resource that all of you must explore in your own time, it's free of cost, and they have got tutorials as well, is MESH database. MESH is medical subject headings. This MESH database is available as part of Medline or PubMed. It's free of cost. They have got lot many tutorials. And whenever you want to choose keywords, it is highly recommended that you choose the keywords used in the MESH. You can choose the keywords out of MESH as well, but mostly it is recommended that you use the keywords from the MESH database, because that is the medical subject heading database. Around 30,000 words are there. And most of the international biomedical journals, they would ask you to use the keywords from the MESH. So if you want to search for international biomedical journals, if you want to publish in biomedical journals, international, it is a good idea to use the MESH keywords. Once you have decided your keywords, now you decide which sources you have to use. And please remember that journals are not the only resource. Please remember this. You can use different websites like Cochrane database for systematic review. You can use then the OATD, the Open Access and Thesis Dissertation database to see the thesis and dissertation. You can also go on other websites on which you can find guidelines. You can also explore the website of professional medical societies. You can also explore the website of these universities. For example, in case of Pakistan, you might want to explore the website of Higher Education Commission, which has certain dissertation and articles on their website. So many options are available. Then you have to find out how do they function. I mean, I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter if your literature search skills are really good, but if you don't have access to that database, it does not mean anything. So you have to see whether you have access to that database or not. Then you run your search, and then you review your research, refine your search, and you have to set alerts. Please remember, doing research and writing is a long process. At the minimum, it might take 6 to 8 months, and in some cases, actually takes like 2 to 3 years. For example, especially in cases of FCPS and MD and the MSc students. So you start writing your synopsis in first year, and you finalize your research project in third year, fourth year. In those third year, fourth year, thousands and thousands of articles have been published on that particular topic. So your research is already outdated. So, I mean, you can't do research again and again every week or every day. So please start working smart. Don't work hard, work smart. So if you set alerts, and most of these databases, they allow you to set alerts using these keywords. And whenever an article will be published on that particular on that particular topic with that particular keyword, they will send you an alert. So you will remain updated on that particular topic for rest of your life, or whatever, I mean, for the time you have that alert in place. So please work smart, and you don't have to work hard. Search databases, again, I'm only going to give you names. I'm not going to go in details. So we all know that Medline or PubMed is the most common and most famous. Absolutely, I totally agree. But please don't forget PubMed Central. Medline की छोटी बहन का नाम है PubMed Central. So Medline has around 30 million articles and abstracts, sorry, not articles, abstracts and titles, but PubMed Central has around 18 million articles and full text. This is the best thing about PubMed Central. Everything in PubMed Central is full text and free of cost. So you should explore PubMed Central wherever you are exploring Medline. Never ever search on Google always search on Google Scholar, because Google Scholar is an academic website, and it is sort of like geared towards academic collection of articles in different biomedical, in different scientific fields, including medical and biomedical fields. DOAG is Directory of Open Access Journals. Around 20,000 journals have been listed in DOAG. And again, the good thing about DOAG is that every article in DOAG is free of cost. And why it is important to do literature search on DOAG? Because not every article and every journal in the world is indexed in Medline or PubMed. Especially in Pakistan, only 4 journals are indexed on Medline or PubMed. So बाकी 78 का क्या करेंगे आप? Either you go on pakmednet.com, the Pakistani website, or you go on Directory of Open Access Journals, so that you can explore other journals as well. Then we all know that Springer Link is a very big conglomerate of publishing. Science Direct is being run by Elsevier. It's one of the biggest. And Ovid database is the Lippincott database. Unfortunately, the last 3, Springer Link, Science Direct, and Ovid database are all subscribed resources. But the good news is that Higher Education Commission of Pakistan provides hundreds of universities, including medical colleges, with direct access to Science Direct, Springer Lake, and Ovid database through their HEC digital library. If your institution does not have access to HEC digital library, you can actually go to the provincial office of HEC, which is located in every provincial capital like Karachi, Lahore, Quetta, and Peshawar. It is open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You have to take your card saying that you are a student or faculty member, and they would allow you to do literature search in their library. So please go and explore all these resources. Any idea what is a Boolean operator? This is the last thing. Second last thing. I will answer the question later on, please. Boolean operator. Dr. Khola says and or. Hafsa says and or. No. Okay. So thank you very much. आप सबको आता है, पढ़े लिखे लोग सारे यार. So Boolean logic or Boolean operator is the use of and or not to combine search terms. Just to quickly give you an idea, how do you combine search terms? So for example, look at this. If you use cats, not dogs, this search will include all articles on cats, and it would exclude all articles on dogs. If you use cats and dogs, it would include only articles related to cats and only articles related to dogs, but it would exclude all canines. And if you use cats or dogs, it would be a very vast search encompassing all cats, dogs article, but other canines as well. Another example, maternal, not child mortality. So it would give you only maternal mortality and not child mortality statistics. If you say maternal and child mortality, it would specifically give you only articles on maternal mortality and child mortality, but it would exclude other articles on other causes of mortality. But if you use the word maternal or child mortality, it would include articles on maternal mortality, child mortality, but other articles on geriatric mortality, adult mortality, adolescent mortality as well. So we'll quickly do a small hands-on exercise and things will become clear for you, inshallah. So a very important concept of Boolean operator, the use of and or not. And again, it's a skill. The more you use it, the more confident you will become, inshallah. This is the mesh database. It is available on PubMed, Medline, and you can go online and see. You can just Google it out. इसको मैं थोड़ा skip करूँगा, time बहुत कम है मेरे पास. Last thing, how to access full text article. So please, can you share your experience? आप full text कहाँ से लेते हो? और डॉय हाय तुम बहुत आला, आप सबको तो आता ही है, तो फिर मैं आपको क्या पढ़ा रहा हूँ? Sci-Hub, fantastic. Okay, question. How many of you use Sci-Hub regularly? Yes or no, please. ये सब जवाब दें इसका. Dr. Khola, University Free Access, good. How many of you have used or use Sci-Hub? Come on, मैं भी use करता हूँ, परेशान हो मैं. I'm not going to report anyone. I also use it regularly. Shehzad ने, जी Shehzad, you have raised your hand. Any question?
Sir, is there any other website apart from Sci-Hub?
उसी पे बात करने लगे हैं. Thank you very much. अभी आप म्यूट कर दो, अभी से बात करने लगे हैं Sci-Hub के अलावा. Okay, so this is how you I mean, these are the options available to you, that how you can access full text of an article. The first is Medline limits and Google Scholar. So whenever you do a research on Medline or PubMed, have you noticed that on the right corner, there's an option of free full text? So many a times you actually get free full text articles right from the Medline if you set your limits correctly. So once I'll do the full session, inshallah, I will actually demonstrate all these things. But अब मैं सिर्फ बता रहा हूँ आपको कि whenever you do a literature search on Medline, so please see the right corner. There is an option free full text. उसे क्लिक करेंगे तो क्या नाम है सारे क्या नाम है ऑप्शन आपको फ्री फुल टेक्स्ट के सामने आ जाएंगे. नंबर 1. Number 2, please explore PubMed Central, which is almost a part of Medline or PubMed. Number 3 is Google Scholar. So I'm not sure इसमें मेरी demo है कि yes, look at this PubMed. So you do this search and look at on the right corner, free full text option is integrated in Medline or PubMed. So you can always go for the free full text. And if you go for the Google Scholar, if a free full text or PDF or HTML is available, this Google Scholar will tell you, right? And someone was asking me that how to set alerts. Please see the left lower corner of this Google Scholar slide. Please see the left lower corner of this Google Scholar slide. If you can see this laser pointer. Yeah, this one. Look at this. Create alert. So you can create an alert from this left lower corner, right? Moving forward, PubMed and Google Scholar. Number 3 is reprint request to author. So you might have seen that most of the articles, they have the email address of the corresponding author. So if you are not getting your article from any means, not Sci-Hub, not Google Scholar, not Medline, so you should actually send a reprint request to the author. And if your email is really good and is professionally written, I assure you that you will get your article you're looking for. And in many cases, they are not supposed to share the article. Still, they will share the article with a request that please do not further share this article and keep this for your personal reading. And that's fine. Moving forward, society membership is a very important way of getting full text articles. Question: how many of you are members of your professional societies in your own subject? Only international societies. आप में से कितने लोग अपनी इंटरनेशनल सोसाइटीज के मेंबर हैं? फॉर एग्जांपल मैं रिहेबिलिटेशन का हूँ, हमारी एक जो ग्लोबल सोसाइटी है उसका नाम है इंटरनेशनल सोसाइटी ऑफ फिजिकल मेडिसिन रिहेबिलिटेशन, मैं उसका मेंबर हूँ. डॉक्टर आयशा कह रही है डू यू हैव अ टेम्पलेट फॉर रिक्वेस्ट टू ऑथर? यस डॉक्टर आयशा, आई हैव अ टेम्पलेट. होपफुली आई विल डिस्कस दिस जब मैं फुल वर्कशॉप कराऊंगा. फैंटास्टिक फैंटास्टिक फैंटास्टिक. ओ छा गए सारे यार. जो नहीं है मेंबर, आई वुड स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड प्लीज एक्सप्लोर द ऑप्शन ऑफ बिकमिंग अ मेंबर ऑफ योर इंटरनेशनल सोसाइटी. Because once you become a member of your international society, many of the societies are affiliated with journals or journals are affiliated with the society. I'll give you one example. International Journal of Stroke is a very high ranking journal in the field of stroke medicine. The annual subscription fee of International Journal of Stroke is around $300. ये बनती है तकरीबन 60,000 रुपया, right? But if you become member of WSO, World Stroke Organization, people from Pakistan, including myself, we only pay $25 and we become member of WSO, World Stroke Organization. And we have full access to the International Journal of Stroke online. So imagine $25 versus $300. And you get other fringe benefits as well. So this is the case with almost every professional society in your own subject. So please go and explore society membership as well. And it's a good idea to request your colleagues and friends abroad to send you articles because their access is really high. Sometimes they can actually download the full e-textbooks for you. So सारा वक्त उनसे Amazon से जो आप परफ्यूम मंगवाते हैं या जो मोबाइल फोन मंगवाते हैं उसके अलावा कभी-कभी आर्टिकल मंगवा लिया करें. And last but not the least is the Sci-Hub. And since many of you are already familiar, would you like me to do a demo of Sci-Hub? या सबको पता है Sci-Hub कैसे करते हैं? Would you like me to do a 2 minutes demo of Sci-Hub या सब कर लोगे आता सबको? Please do. Okay. Okay. Oh, please. Okay. हमें 2-3 मिनट और लग जाएंगे, but I'll do that. Okay. Okay. I'll pause share. Okay. Okay. All of you see my screen, DuckGoGo. So this is Sci-Hub. ये इसका web address है. So Sci-Hub, basically you have to enter the URL, the PubMed ID or DOI. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. So what you do, you go on PubMed, yeah, right? You do any search. You do search like this. Okay, let's see. So look at this. This is DOI, Digital Object Identifier. You copy it from here, you come here and you paste it here, and then you click open और दुआ करें कि अल्लाह करे ये खुल जाए. And look at this. This is the lady who actually set up this Sci-Hub. Here you go. So you have just downloaded a $60 research article free of cost. ठीक है जी? So this is how Sci-Hub works. इसको आप bookmark कर लो जैसे मैंने bookmark किया हुआ है, and you can download free full text articles, right? So very simple. Or by the way, yes, Sci-Hub is the world largest database of articles. Medline has 30 million. Sci-Hub has 70 million articles. 7 करोड़ आर्टिकल है इसके ऊपर. ऑब्वियसली इसमें सारी स्पेशलिटीज शामिल हैं, मेडिकल, नॉन मेडिकल, इंजीनियरिंग, साइंसेस, सब कुछ. लेकिन अगेन इट्स अ वेरी गुड रिसोर्स, राइट? So going back to what I was doing. So the practical tips: always devise a strategy and discuss with colleagues. Now you might realize if you have a good team, so your literature search is going to be effective as well. Plan for your literature search and spare some time. Prepare a list of keywords. Teamwork is good work. Please remember, many times what happens that you're working on an article and everyone is searching for the same thing. Don't do that. Work like a team. So one of the team members should be searching for complication. The other team member should be focused on the epidemiology. The third team member should be focused on the outcomes. And the fourth one should be working on literature search on interventions. If you work like a team, then you can actually collaborate and you can collect data and you can all share the literature search that you have done, and it would save you a lot of time. And since everyone will be focused on one particular topic, the literature search is going to be very good, in-depth, and quick. So this is how it works. And PubMed tutorials are available, and you can actually explore those tutorials and you can learn a lot. So this was all from my side, and now let's do a little bit of hands-on